Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing really well and welcome back to this how to draw a horse in coloured pencils tutorial. I hope you're all doing really well, and if you've just joined me now and you haven't started from the beginning, I will link part 1 down below and I'll put it on the screen so that you can go and start from the very beginning and draw this eye with me. But if you're here carrying on from part 1, then as always, I will leave everything that you need to know about this tutorial in the description, like all the coloured pencils and extra tools and stuff. So without further ado, let's just get started. Okie dokie, so where to begin now on this next part? I think I'm going to map in some of these darker shadows, you know, like that sort of frame the face a little bit. You can see the structure of the face. I think it'll be helpful to add those guidelines in and then we can sort of see where everything is. So I'm just going to dab some of the lines away a tiny bit just so that I can still see them with my putty eraser, and I'm going to use the dark Sepia 175 and just start to add some really subtle little lines just so that I can see where those shadows are. It is quite a high contrast image, so there's a lot of sunlight which is causing the shadows to look really dark and obvious, which is actually helpful for us because it just makes it easier to see where everything is. So I'm just going around this one here, and then let's make that one a little bit more obvious, and comes up here a little bit, and comes down there. So sometimes your drawings can look a little bit flat if the shadows aren't dark enough. So sometimes you've just got to spend a bit of time really figuring out where they all are. Let's add a little bit down here. Tidying it up a little bit, getting rid of any smudged areas because it's easy to smudge coloured pencils, especially on certain papers. This Canson Moulin paper that I'm using does get a bit smudgy sometimes, so just got to keep cleaning it up. And I'm just gonna add where that little shadowy bit is. I'm being very light still. Always start off with a lighter hand to begin with. And I'm going to darken that up a little bit more. It at least gives us a little bit of direction on where to start next. I'm also going to just add a bit more of a darker line there. So just spend a bit of time adding all these little areas in. I might also just show where the edge of that where that shadow is there. Just mapping that in a bit. Don't need to go too crazy, but I think that is looking good for now. So just tidy up a tiny bit more before I go in with a paler base colour. So I'm going to start now with the warm grey one 272, which is our base colour that we used for the fur in the last video. And I'm just going to bring that over the areas that we've just done. Trying my best not to smudge anything. I think I'll just do this general area for now, Can always sort of go a bit wider afterwards and venture up here a little bit more, but we'll start with that for now. And then let's add a little bit of that Beige Red 132 and just take that up here a little bit. Just giving it that ever so slight pink tone. Very subtle, but it makes a difference. I think I will be adding a bit of orange in this video as well now, because looking at it, I do feel like it needs a bit of warmth just to lift it a little bit more. But that'll do for now. Just adding a subtle touch of pink. Can always add a bit more if need be. Okay, so now I'm going to use my Nougat 178 and just start to map in the first layer of fur texture. So I'm just doing my little strokes, building it up. And I'm always looking for the direction of the little fur, pieces of fur. If you look really closely at the image, you can see that they're sort of going in this direction here. So I'm just building that up. I think we're definitely going to need a lot more depth around here, but it's good just to use a lighter colour to begin with, so you can map it all in and it'll like blend really nicely. I'm going to bring it up here a little bit as that line sort of comes up there. Just going to map that in a bit. And the fur starts to go downwards a little bit from that line. It's sort of just where the eye socket is, where it's sort of the structure of it comes out a little bit. So just add in some little bits here. Then I'm just going to blend a little bit up here. Sort of like starts to come up and round like in this direction now. So just layering lots and lots of little strokes, little tiny taps with the pencil. And sort of change my direction. Sometimes I'll go upwards, sometimes I'll go downwards, depending on what feels easiest. But I'm not afraid to like layer them on top of each other, so they don't all need to be side by side perfectly. They can all overlap and sit on top of each other, and that helps to get more of a natural look. Go. So just add in those initial layers to begin with, and then for these shadowy bits, because they are quite dark, I'm just gonna shade in, because it doesn't matter too much about a lot of texture at this point there. And then here I'm just gonna shade that bit in there. I don't want to press too hard because I want to be able to apply lots and lots of layers here. So I'm still being quite light. We need a lot of layers to get this depth of colour. So anywhere where I can see a little bit more texture in the fur and it's not just nearly black like that bit, I will just do some strokes just to get a bit more of that fur texture in. So like round here you can see a little bit of fur texture. So I'll just add a little bit in. Still always looking for the direction of it as well. If you can get the direction of the fur right, then you're already halfway there, to be honest. So yeah, that's looking good. Let's now add some burnt umber 280, which is that nice warmer darker brown, and I'm just going to darken up that shadow a little bit more. Because like I said, there's not really much detail in that shadow, it's just dark, so I'm just going to shade that in a little bit. Just so that we can see where the dark areas are. It's just a bit more helpful when you can see those clear guidelines. Still not pressing on super hard, I'm just lightly adding that in. And let's just darken up this bit as well. The fly keeps landing on my legs and it's annoying me, it's like tickling me. And then I'm going to start to do my fair strokes again, just to try and blend that in a little bit nicer. So in the same direction that we did the initial underneath layer of fair strokes, we're going to add these on top, just going over, blending them into that shadowy area. So like I said, sometimes I'll do them one way, sometimes I'll do them the other way, whatever feels like it's building the texture up a little bit more easily. Just change it up a little bit, to be honest. It does take quite a lot of practice to get the feel for the sort of pattern and flow of drawing fur. Like, you do get into a bit of a rhythm eventually, but it takes a while to get used to it, so don't worry if yours is taking longer to sort of build up, because it feels weird. I'm very used to drawing fur, so I can sort of fly through it a little bit more, but yeah, don't worry if it's taking you a little bit longer to get used to that. And then start to add some in here. It also like matters where you hold your pencil, so sometimes for fur I'll hold it a bit higher up rather than holding it down here, and then I can get more of like a loose hold on the pencil, and it just helps it to feel a bit more fluid and organic and not too like controlled. But that's all down to personal preference as well. Like, if that doesn't feel right to you, holding it a bit higher up, then hold it however you like. But I just find sometimes it helps to loosen up a little bit. Actually just gonna map in that shadow there as well. It's like some little weird pointy bits that come down like that. And that bit of the shadow there, it sort of like all comes down like that. It is quite a dark area, so yeah, I'm going to go back to doing my little strokes now. So we're always just looking for shapes. Like, if you think of it as a shadow and just try and draw a shadow in without really looking at the reference, you probably wouldn't get all these weird little shapes in, but you just need to detach from it and just think, right, I'm looking for shapes. Okay, this is a shape. It's got some weird pointy bits down here, but that's what it looks like on the picture. So I'm just going to draw what I can see. So blending this out from the really dark shadow. Definitely going to need a bit of orange in this to bring it to life a bit more. It's looking a bit flat without that orange colour, but we'll do that. We'll get to that. Just building this up for now. Okay, and I'm going to be very careful looking for the direction of the fur here. It sort of starts to come down a little bit like this. Just keep layering it up. Then it all sort of like starts coming down this way again here, sort of into that shadow there, and then a little bit more of a diagonal here. It's very subtle changes in that fur direction, but it all makes a difference to it looking realistic and not like it's looking a bit weird. Sometimes if you get that off, it looks a bit off. So you just take your time. So we're getting there. So slowly building up that structure. Darkening up that shadow, and then start just blending some little bits out of the shadow. It's a little bit lighter there, so I don't want to go too dark there. I want it to have the contrast so that you can see the different shapes and stuff. Just filling that last little bit in. And then I'll just leave that bit for now. We'll go back in there soon. Let's add now some Burnt Ochre 187. I want to get that orange colour, so I'm just going to blend that in around here. Where it's looking a bit more orange. Going to blend a bit in these darker areas. See how that instantly just adds a bit more colour and makes it look a bit less flat. Blending it in around here. Definitely need a bit here. Really softly. Don't want any harsh lines, I just want it to sort of melt into the rest of the drawing. Just blending that in. Blending a bit up here. Could always add some more back in afterwards, but I think for now that looks pretty good. I think we need to darken up some of these shadows. So I'm going to go back to the Dark Sepia 175 and I'm going to go back to this one here and just go over that a little bit more. And I'm just going to darken that up Again, I don't want to press too hard because I still want to be able to add more layers on top of this, so just very, very gently blending that in. You can go over it a few times. You're better off doing that than pressing hard and then that being that. So just darken up this bit here. This little line. Then this bit. And then I am just going to start to like do some little strokes to try and make these shadows blend in really nicely. So this is going to take a bit of time. Just going to do lots and lots of little strokes and just start to darken up some of the shadows. I want it to look rounded, so I want to blend some out of this side as well. This side of the line, and then it's not so much a line, I want it to be more of like a, how would you describe that, like a smooth area. So just keep layering it up. We'll add as much as we need to. And I'm going to blend some up here, and then it all sort of meets, and it's not loads of separate bits, and it's all sort of one part of the face. So I'll just keep blending that in. Add in some more. And then just going to darken up this bit a little bit more. I'm going to blend a little bit more in just here, just to round that off a little bit better. And let's start to darken up this whole area. So it's quite a big section really for all these teeny tiny strokes, but we'll just take our time and just gradually build it up. Just keep doing your little taps, looking for the really dark areas and like the slight differences in the shadows and the slightly lighter areas, and just gradually build it up. I'm holding it a little bit tighter now because I do want it to be a little bit darker. I'm just applying a bit more pressure and control. So it does take a lot of just reworking relayering to get that nice depth of colour and richness. So like I said, we usually work dark to light, so I am going quite dark here, and we've got some more colours to add in there, but when you're adding like more brighter colours to brighten it up and to give it more richness, you can sort of add those in to the darker areas, but you wouldn't be able to easily go and add like some warm grey one back into this. Do you know what I mean? Like you can add sort of mid-tone colours into the dark areas, but you can't go adding lighter colours on top to lighten it up much. So I just want to see sort of how dark I need to go before I go adding more colourful colours, should I say. So I'm just getting the structure in there first. Let's add a bit more into here. Add some in here. Start building this shadow up, and like I said, it slightly changes direction here and there, so just keep an eye on that. I mean, these strokes are that tiny that it wouldn't be the end of the world if you didn't get it quite right. It's more important when you're doing longer fur, but it is still important, so just try your best to get that fur direction right. Add some little bits here, and then I think we need to add some more colour. It's looking a bit dull, a bit flat. Just blend a little bit more around here. Little lines here, I just want to add another one there. And just blend that shadow out a little bit more there. Okay, we need some more colour for sure. Let's just add a bit more Nougat 178 just to blend this out a little bit more. And let's add a little bit more burnt umber 280. We can afford to press a little bit harder now that we've got it a bit darker. So if you feel like it needs a bit more brown anywhere, then just feel free to add a little bit more. Blending it in a bit there. Let's add a bit down here. blend it out a bit. And let's just try and layer a bit more of this. Okay, I think we need some burnt sienna 283 for a bit more of that red tone. So I'm just going to start using this to add that nice rich red colour. Start blending it in. Applying a fair bit of pressure. It's not the most pigmented colour, so I do feel like sometimes you need to apply a bit more pressure. So sort of just like shading in these really dark areas just to save a bit of time. And then when you get to like these bits where you can see the fur a bit more, I'm just doing some strokes to blend it out. So I'm just going to blend it in around here. See how that just gives it more of a rich colour. I'm going to blend some down here, do some little strokes. It's looking a lot better. Obviously it's still a little bit flat because we need some black or something in there to really darken it up, but it's adding more of that richness, that chestnutty brown sort of tone to it because it's got the red now blended into. I'm just going to add a little bit more down here, and like I said, I am just sort of mixing it up and doing strokes where I need a bit more of a texture and to blend it in a bit better, and then these really dark bits I'm just like shading it in. But don't think too much about that, it's just do whatever way feels right to you. Let's add a bit here. Let's blend it in a bit. On the whole, it is a bit easier just to like shade it in. Saves a little bit of time anyway. I think that's looking pretty good though. Let's just add a little bit into this shadow just to give it a little bit more of a rich colour. And if need be, I might add a bit more burnt ochre 187. This bit looks really orange, so I'm just going to concentrate a little bit more of that there. Give it that warm glow. See what I mean? You can keep adding bright colours back into it. It doesn't matter too much about it being lighter than the darker areas. It still lifts those areas that are a bit lighter, like here. I'm gonna just blend a bit of that in there. Just add a little bit around here. Although we'll get to that bit soon. Blend a bit more there. Okay, I think we need to darken it up now, so let's use some black 199. And what I will say is just be careful when we're resting our hand over the bits that we've done, not to smudge it too much. Probably need to get myself some more tracing paper just to rest my hand on. So black 199, and now we're really going to darken up some of these shadows. So just going to shade on top of this bit, darken it up, and I'm not pressing too hard again because, like I said, I don't want it to go all funny and completely ruin the paper. I just want to get enough pigment down. So you're better off going a bit lighter but going over it a few times. Let's do this bit here. Just shade that in a little bit. Just really trying to add more depth to these darker bits. I'm just going to blend it out a bit. I'm going to do some strokes now just to try and get a bit more of a blend. So just building up, connecting the different areas, looking for where the really, really dark bits are and sort of concentrating a bit more of that black around there. Like around here it's quite dark, so I'm just going to concentrate a little bit more there. Fly on my paper. The only thing about this time of year, it's lovely having the nice weather, but it brings all of the bugs out. So I'm sure I cannot complain, because I'm sure some of you might live in places like Australia or, I don't know, somewhere that does actually have like big scary bugs. We're not too bad here, at least. They're more just annoying little flies. Blending that a bit more. Definitely need to darken up this bit here. It's like really quite dark. So I do tend to just start in the darkest areas and then work my way out from there. It's just a bit easier. Keep layering that up. It's adding a lot more depth at least. You can see a big difference already. Just going to blend this out a bit more here. So just gradually working our way around, sort of applying more in the really dark areas and then trying to blend it out a bit into the lighter bits. When you're coming out of these darker areas, I do find it easier to sort of go from the darker bit and blend outwards, if that makes sense. So I'm going in this direction, that direction, blending out. A bit more around here. I just blend a bit more out at the top here. Again, coming from that darker bit and blending into the lighter bit in that direction. Add some into this bit. Don't need too much in this bit though, just a bit of a subtle hint of black. So we're getting there, starting to build it up a little bit more. I might just blend a bit in this area here, just to round it off a little bit more. It looks a bit too strong of a line, so I'll blend it. It's a bit better. Let's add a little bit more burnt sienna 283. I just want to make this bit a little bit more red, so I'm just gonna apply a bit more pressure and just focus that in there a little bit more. Blend a little bit more from this bit. I have to be careful with this paper because if I press too hard now on these dark areas, it almost like picks out little bits of the paper and then I'll have to go back in and darken it again. So I'm trying to be careful not to have to redo too much. Let's add a bit more just here. That's why I'd maybe recommend the Strathmore for complete beginners, because it's a little bit... is it easier to layer on? It's just more suitable for beginners, I'd say. Don't know how to describe why, it's just... a little bit easier to blend on if you're not used to the techniques. But obviously you're welcome to have a go at using the same paper if you'd like to, even if you are a beginner. I'm just going to add a bit more in here actually. There we go. Right, that's looking good. I think I might start to bring it in a little bit more here now. Sort of going towards where that white area is, but we're just going to focus on the brown parts for now. So I'm just going to lightly dab my lines so that I don't lose them, so that I can see where these different areas are. I might actually use a little bit of burnt umber 280 just to map in where that white bit is, so that I can see it. So I'm just doing lots of little taps so that it's not like a solid line, because that would look really unnatural. I'm also just going to show where this bit is, where it sort of like comes round like that. Just add in a little bit of a guide. Then there's a slightly darker bit just there, and then it's a bit darker sort of around here. And then I'm going to dab that line away. There's a bit of a lighter bit there, sort of sits in between those two parts, just showing where that is, and then I don't lose it. And again here, sort of like two lighter bits. And then it's a bit darker just around there. So not always necessary to map in these different parts, but I just like to have a bit of a guideline so that I don't get confused. And then let's add the warm grey one 270. Blend that in. So adding it around here and a little bit down here. Okie dokie. And let's add some of that Beige Red 132 just to get that ever so slight pink undertone. Blending that in there. Okie dokie. Then let's start out with the Nougat 178 again, just to start mapping in little tiny first strokes. And as usual, following that direction. So we're just doing a really light first layer, and then we can start to add some darker colours on top. So I'm just going to come out from that area where the white is and just sort of blend into that a little bit, and then working my way through here. And then just bringing it round here a bit. Following that fur direction, it is very warm in some of these areas, so we are going to need some more vibrant colours. This Nougat is not a very vibrant colour, it's just a nice neutral colour, so it just works with everything. So I'm just going to add a little bit in here. Not pressing on hard, just light, nice and light. Okay, let's start to add some burnt umber to 80, and we're gonna really start to like darken this up now, get a bit more shape in there. So just layering this up. Following that fur direction. Do we add a bit of burnt ochre first and then we can sort of see it all blend together? Yeah, let's do that. Sorry. Burnt ochre 187. Let's blend a bit of that in, and then at least we can sort of see it all coming together a bit more. Blend a bit of that up there. There is like a bit here that's not quite as warm where that highlight is, so I'm going to leave it a little bit there. Just softly blend that in. It's very warm around here, so I'm going to add quite a bit to this area. Better, and then at least we can sort of see it come together a bit more now. So add a little bit more in there. Okay, back to the burnt umber 280. Sorry about that slight pivot. I think now it's going to make it a bit easier for us to see where we need to put this. And it sort of comes together a little bit more. So it's very dark brown round here. Just doing lots and lots of little strokes. You can see the fur more easily as well because it's not as dark as this bit. It's a bit lighter. You can see more of the fur texture, so I do just want to take my time to get this right. So it starts coming down a little bit more like this. And if you need to, like, keep sharpening your pencil, make sure you've got a nice point for drawing this fur, and then you can see the fur strokes a little bit more clearly. I just like to spin my pencil around every now and then to get the sharpest point of it. But you don't want it to be really blunt for this. starting to take shape. Just blending a bit through there. And start to bring it down here. It's very red around here. We're going to need quite a bit of burnt sienna, I think. Going to leave this light bit a little bit lighter. Blending in. Probably going to need a bit more like something there. I feel like it needs to look a bit cooler. It's going to blend a bit more from that right hand side and outwards. Okay, that's given us a good starting point. Let's now add some of that burnt sienna 283 and get a bit more of a red tone in there. So I'm going to focus it around here where I can tell that it's really red. Start building that up. So just building that all up, getting a bit more of that rich colour. Definitely getting there now. change my battery over. Hopefully that's about right. I'm going to go back to building this up a bit more. See how that just gives it a bit of a look of like it's shiny, because we've got these lighter bits and the darker bits. They sort of create a nice bit of shape to the face. I even add a little bit more on this right hand side. Once you've got the structure, you can keep adding more colour. You know, if you feel like you need a bit more vibrance, you can keep adding it. It's just a case of getting that structure all in the right place. I'm gonna add a bit more here, bring it in a little bit. That's looking good though. Let's add a tiny bit here where this lighter part is, just so that it blends in a bit nicer. It's looking a bit too light. It's a bit better. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the dark sepia 175 and just start to add some of that into these areas. I am wondering if I'm going to need a bit more of like a purpley brown, like walnut brown or something, because it's looking a bit purple around here. But I'll add a little bit of this first and then we can see if it's still missing anything. So I'm just subtly adding a bit more depth, a bit more shape to the face. Said that weird? To the face. But yeah, I don't like to use any unnecessary colours in tutorials if I can help it, because I want to make it as achievable to follow along with as possible, and not everyone has like a full set of colours. So if I don't need walnut brown, I'd rather not have to add it in, but if I do, then I do. It is one of them. Sometimes you just need some extra colours thrown in there. Add a bit round here. I think I am going to need something. Needs like more of a gradient colour that I can blend the dark sepia into the rest of the fur with. So at the minute it's looking a bit too stark. It's looking good though, like the structure of the face is looking nice. Let's just blend a little bit more into this bit here. A little bit more around here. Okay, let's try some Walnut Brown 177, or just use like a dark purpley brown colour if you don't have the same pencils as me. There we go, so Walnut Brown 177. I don't know if you'll be able to tell on the video, but it's a lot more of a purple tone than the Burnt Umber, which is this one, so yeah, it's got slightly more purple in it, which is what we need for this area. So I'm just going to start going in and layering that up to get more of a purple tone, and hopefully this bit will start to look a bit more like the reference does. So blending that in, I think that is making a nice difference. Maybe blend a little bit into this side just to make it match a little bit more. Add a little bit in here. So it just adds a bit more of a purple colour. I'm going to just concentrate a bit more here. Can you see there's like a bit of a line where it's really purpley red? I'm just going to add a bit more there. I might need another colour just to focus on that section, but it's looking good. Let's add a bit more around here. Looking a bit better. I feel like we might need a bit more burnt umber or something, a bit more of a warm brown. Just add a tiny bit more of this up here and then we'll move on to another colour. Maybe add a tiny bit through here. My stomach is rumbling. I think I need to get some lunch in a little bit. Right, let's just go back to the burnt umber 280, and I just want to start building a bit more of that up, get a little bit more dense of a colour. Apply a little bit more pressure than the last time if need be. And I want to leave that bit a little bit lighter. Let's add a little bit more in here. And let's add a bit more burnt sienna to 283. Do feel like we could use a little bit more of that, especially here where this like random little line bit is. better. Start to blend it out a little bit more. Blend a bit more out from there, I think. And I'm just going to add a bit more dark sepia 175 just to darken up some of these bits a tad more. Getting there now, looking a lot better. Might just add a little bit more here. Ooh, my stomach's rumbling, I am hungry. And build a bit more up here. We could always go back in the next video and just add a bit more into this if we need to. I do like to come away with fresh eyes and see how it's looking anyway. To be honest, it's always good to take a step back and come back a few hours later or the next day or the next week, whenever, and you will see a difference because you've not been staring at it for the past hour or so. A little bit here. That nice shine. I'm going to blend that out a tiny bit more. Maybe just blend that out a tiny bit more too. Add a little bit here. Okie dokie, and I think I will just leave that there for that part. We can always go back in the next video and add a bit more into those areas and just perfect it a little bit. But I am in need of a bit of lunch, so I hope you enjoyed drawing this part with me. If you did, then please make sure to give the video a like because it helps the channel out so much. Make sure that you are subscribed to keep up with the series, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So bye for now, have a lovely day.